Please leave a comment where you are watching from. I've always been a hunter. Not for trophies, not for sport, and not because I get some kind of thrill out of taking life. I hunt for control, for purpose, for the stillness. I grew up with it. It was something passed down, like an heirloom coated in mud, bone, and old blood. Boar mostly. I've done deer, bagged a few turkeys in November when the freezer was light. But feral hogs? That's where the real work is. They're invasive, destructive, and they breed like nothing I've ever seen. 2 litters a year. 10 piglets, sometimes more. They eat anything. Everything. Crops, small animals, sometimes each other. They're chaos on hooves, and the state says kill as many as you like. So I do. Now, in my state, hunting large game at night, especially with night or thermal scopes, is a no-go, except for coyotes and hogs. And hogs, well, they don't play by daylight rules. They come out when the world goes still, when even the shadows don't move right. That's where this story starts. I'd been saving for nearly a year for this thermal scope. The kind that makes you feel like you're in a Predator movie, black and white heat signatures, distance readings, zoom toggles. It cost twice what my rifle did. Try explaining that to a wife who just wants new kitchen cabinets. But I pulled it off. Picked it up in January. By March, I had it sighted in and ready. The spot I'd scouted was maybe 2 hours from home, way out past the county roads and into the public land where cell service dies. The forest out there feels old, heavy, the kind of place that doesn't forget things. I'd seen signs of hogs tearing up the roots near the clearing, scat that was still warm the day before. And best of all, it was easy to get to with my truck, and I had perfect vantage points around the tree line. I set up just after 10 p.m. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, but that didn't matter. I was seeing in white-hot contrast now. Every rabbit looked like a little bonfire. I was dialed in, cycling through my settings like a kid on Christmas. Got impatient, sure. Saw a few deer, but they were out of season, plus the setup I had wasn't legal for deer. Just pigs. Just coyotes. Just monsters. I moved spots after an hour. The second location didn't feel better. Actually, it felt worse. Too quiet. No owls. No crickets. Not even the scratch of a possum in the brush. The woods weren't breathing like they usually do. Just a low hum, like the world was holding its breath. I should have known right then that something was off. Time ticked by. I remember checking my watch. 2:07 a.m. I was about ready to pack it in when I heard it. A crunch. Not far. Same direction I'd come from when I moved spots. It was distinct, too heavy to be a rabbit, too slow to be a deer. I raised the rifle and panned the thermal scope toward the sound. I saw the heat signature before I saw the shape. At first, I thought it was a bear. The silhouette was low, hunched, and pushing through the underbrush in an awkward crawl. But then it moved wrong. Too fast. Too jerky. Its limbs bent at strange angles. Not quite animal. Not quite man. I adjusted the zoom. Blinked twice. That wasn't a bear. It was a man. But not like any man I'd seen before. Naked. Pale. Covered in streaks of grime and mud. No shoes. No pants. Just skin. Twitching like a squirrel high on power lines. His hands clawed at the foliage as he moved, sniffing the ground, palming trees. His movements were curious, like he was learning how to be alive again. He stopped, right near the tree I'd been leaning against earlier. And then this part sticks with me even now. He started sniffing the tree. Not casually. No. He pressed his face into it, rubbed his cheek against the bark. His tongue darted out, flicking like a snake's. I felt the bile rise in my throat. Could he smell me? My finger tightened on the trigger. And then he squatted, hands in the dirt, head bowed, motionless, until he started howling, like a dog. Not a scream, not a yell, but a full-throated, primal howl that made every hair on my body stand up. It cut through the silence like a blade. I've heard coyotes. I've heard wolves. This was neither. It was close to human, but it vibrated with something other, something older. And then, from behind him, in the direction of the hills. Help! I'm lost. A voice. Hi. Female. Fragile. Beautiful. Too beautiful. I froze. Neither of us moved. Not me. Not the thing. He was still crouched in that weird animal squat, his hands pressed into the ground. Another call. Please. I can't walk. Help. My blood turned to ice. I had seen him walk. Crawl. Stalk. He was fast. Agile. He moved through the forest like he was born from it. This was bait. The voice wasn't right either. It wasn't echoing naturally. It was layered. Too smooth. Like a voice recording played back through a blown-out speaker. The cadence was off. I stayed frozen. Didn't respond. Didn't call out. Just aimed. Not at him. Never aim a gun directly at another person unless you mean to use it. That's the rule. My crosshairs sat on the dirt near his feet. He hadn't moved. Until I did. I started to slowly gather my pack. Most of it was already zipped. Just had to strap up and move quiet. I took my eyes off the scope for less than 5 seconds. When I looked again, he was staring right at me. Same position. Crouched. But his head had rotated. And I swear to God, he smiled. You can't see faces clearly through thermal, but you can see expression in motion. You can see the flex of muscle and jaw. I saw the heat bloom around his mouth. A wide, toothy grin. And then, and this part one still don't understand, he stood up. He unfolded himself like a marionette, tall and grotesquely thin. 6 foot easy. Probably more. And he took a step forward. I shouted, voice cracked. Piss OFF. He didn't flinch. He didn't startle. He watched me, then dropped back down onto all fours and started moving. Fast. I fired a warning shot. High. Into the trees. The crack of the rifle echoed like thunder. He paused. Still crouched. Then crept lower. His body pressed flat against the ground, eyes just above the grass. Watching. I chambered another round. The next one'll go through your chest. He didn't answer. Just stared. It lasted maybe a minute. Maybe less. And then he ran. Left. Into the forest. Faster than anything I've ever seen move on foot. He didn't weave, he glided. Like a shadow on legs. I sent another bullet after him, not to hit, just to remind him. I wasn't going to hesitate again. I tried to switch mags, but my hands were shaking. Dropped it. Left it. Grabbed my gear, rifle in hand, and started running. The path back to my truck felt like a mile, though it was barely a quarter of one. My lungs burned. My legs didn't feel real. But behind me, laughter. Or maybe crying. Or both. Whatever it was, it followed. I got to my truck. Slammed the gear in. Rifle in the passenger seat. Started the engine with shaking fingers and didn't look back. I didn't stop until I hit pavement and phone signal. I called Fish and Wildlife the next morning. Told them everything, except the smiling part. Told them there was some guy out there, deranged, naked, possibly dangerous. They gave me hell for hunting alone at night and told me to keep my distance if I saw him again. That was it. No follow-up. No report. I've told the story to a few people since. Some say it was a crackhead, a squatter, a guy off his meds. But my nephew, he told me about skinwalkers, rakes, wendigos, creatures that use voices to lure you, faces to trick you. He got so scared when I mentioned where it happened, he asked his mom to take him home. It was the same forest we were camping in, just a few miles apart. And maybe that's all it was, some lunatic out in the woods playing caveman. 2 years ago, I was homeless. Not in the romanticized, movie kind of way. Not a van life TikTok. I'm talking cold nights, empty stomachs, sleeping with one eye open on a broken tarp beside kids who'd survived worse than I had. I was 17. Already a lifetime deep in trauma. But we weren't alone. There were 3 of us, me, Kaya, and Reed. We had each other. And as far as being homeless went, we were actually doing all right. We had survival skills. We had a plan. And for a while, we had a camp. It started with another group. 5 kids, a little older than us, hardened by the streets. They took pity on us. Said they had a place we could use, a little hidden camp out past the city, deeper than most dared to go. They called it the Watch. It was tucked back in a patch of woods that felt forgotten. No roads led to it. You had to follow a creek until the trail went cold, then bushwhack through the trees until everything smelled like pine and mold. That's where it was. And when we saw it, it felt magical. The tarp was strung tight, dry and clean, not sagging like the garbage we'd been using. Someone had actually carved a bed out of a fallen tree, smoothed and shaped, with padding made from old yoga mats and blankets that didn't smell like piss. They had battery-powered fairy lights stapled along the inner frame of the tarp. It gave off this warm glow at night that made it feel less like we were surviving, and more like we were living. We stayed. The other group gave us 2 weeks there, said we could stay longer if we respected it, didn't draw attention, didn't it up. So we kept quiet, gathered food, traded at the local shelter, and every night we sat under those soft lights telling stories. laughing. It was the most peace I'd known in years. We had 2 dogs with us, Pepper and Autumn. Both were strays, abused before they found us, but they'd become our protectors. Pepper was this tiny black mutt with huge eyes, sensitive, jumpy, always watching. Autumn was the opposite, a snarling ball of fur and muscle, an Aussie mix with eyes like fire. She feared nothing. They slept above us in a little nook we'd built with crates and a wool blanket, always together, always alert. Everything was perfect, until I opened my mouth. It was the 4th night. We were talking about dumb stuff. School stories. What we missed. Who we would be if life had gone differently. Somehow, the conversation veered into urban legends. Kaya was talking about ghost towns. Reed mentioned shadow people. And then I said the word. Skinwalker. They both stopped. Reed shook his head. You're not supposed to say it, man. I laughed it off. Come on, it's just a word. But it wasn't. Not 10 minutes later, our dogs, both of them, lost it. Pepper was the first. She stood up in her crate and made this low, broken whine I'd never heard before. Her body was trembling, eyes wide, tail between her legs. Autumn leapt down immediately, ears back, hackles raised, snarling into the dark. It wasn't a raccoon. It wasn't a coyote. They were afraid, like primal fear. Like whatever was out there didn't belong in this world. We all froze. For a full minute, we didn't breathe. Then Reed grabbed the fire poker. Kaya fumbled for the flashlight. I pulled the tarp tighter. Not that it mattered. It was just nylon and duct tape. Whatever was out there could have torn through it like tissue. We waited. And then we heard it. Not an animal. Not a person. Something in between. It circled the camp. Heavy footsteps, but too smooth. Gliding. A shape passed outside the tarp, tall, hunched, with joints that bent the wrong way. We could hear it breathing. Not hard or panting. Just a low, wet rasp like something was inhaling through torn lungs. I whispered, "Don't make a sound." And we didn't. For hours. None of us slept. The thing never came in. But it watched. We felt it. We didn't talk about it the next day. We didn't have to. We just nodded at each other and decided, we're not sleeping here again. We'd use the camp to store gear, cook food, but when the sun started to set, we'd make our way to the rail yard or shelter. Anywhere but here. We were safe during the day. At least, we thought we were. 3 days later, Kaya found something. We'd gone to check on the camp mid-morning, and everything looked fine, at first. But then Kaya screamed. There, scratched into the tree nearest the camp, was a spiral. A deep, gouged mark, dug into the bark like claws. Not carved. Torn. We looked around and saw more. Symbols. Marks. Scars in the trunks, spiraling outward. Some of them had handprints. Not full palms. Just long fingers. Thin. Inhuman. Way too many knuckles. And worse, our dogs wouldn't come near them. Autumn growled low, but backed away, tail down. Pepper whimpered and bolted. We packed our gear that day. Took what we could and left the rest. Never went back. But the thing followed us. 2 weeks later, we were sleeping behind a laundromat. It was cold. Windy. Trash rattled in the alley. But we felt safer there than in the woods. Reed had gone out to trade for food. Kaya and I were curled under blankets. The dogs lay at our feet. That's when we heard it again. The rasp. At first it came from the dumpster. Then the opposite side of the alley. Then, behind us. It was like it was circling again, but there were no footsteps. Just breath. Autumn leapt up, snarling. Pepper let out a howl. And then, help. A voice. Sweet. Sad. Female. Exactly the same as before. I grabbed the tire iron and stood. The alley was empty. But I could feel it. Watching from the rooftops. I turned slowly, and there it was. Perched. On all fours. On the F*ing roof of the laundromat. ***. A pale, naked thing with eyes like frozen milk. It didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stared. Then it opened its mouth and smiled. Not a grin. Not a snarl. A full, too wide smile that stretched the whole way across its face. And then it leapt, not down but back into the dark. Gone. We moved again. That night, we walked for miles. Ended up crashing in a park bathroom. Locked the doors. Let the dogs sleep in the stalls with us. I didn't sleep. I sat against the door, tire iron in hand, and stared at the window the whole night. It never came. But I dreamed about it. Every time I closed my eyes, it was there, that thing in the trees. That voice. The spiral carved into bark. Its eyes glowing behind the fairy lights. It's been over a year now. I'm no longer homeless. Got a place, a job. Pepper's still with me. Autumn ran off one night last winter and never came back. Sometimes I think she went back to the woods. Sometimes I think she didn't have a choice. I still talk to Kaya and Reed. We don't bring up the camp. Not anymore. We left something there. Or something found us. But sometimes late at night, Pepper will wake up and start growling at the window. And I swear, for a second, I hear that voice again. Faint. Right outside. Please. I'm lost. I used to think I was immune to superstition. Grew up in Virginia. Suburbs. Football on Sundays. Yard work on Saturdays. Nothing haunted ever happened to me growing up. My biggest fear was getting caught sneaking out to smoke weed with my friends behind the 7-Eleven. That changed the night we had the bonfire. I had two best friends, Zach and Travis. Zach, I'd known since kindergarten. Travis was newer, a country kid with a weird laugh and a love for conspiracy videos on YouTube. We clicked fast. Spent weekends getting high, listening to music, talking about dumb shit like aliens and time travel. This was back in senior year. We were all 18, full of it, thought we were untouchable. Travis's family owned land out in the country, real country. Like gravel road, Civil War battlefield. No one's coming if you scream kind of country. The house was old, full of creaking floorboards and strange cold spots, but his folks were cool and mostly left us alone. So when Travis suggested a bonfire out by the woods behind his place, it was a no-brainer. We got the weed, brought some cheap beers, got some old logs set up in a circle by the tree line, lit a fire and let it rage. It was perfect. For a while. We were sitting there, maybe an hour in, when Travis's golden retriever, Jack, perked up. Jack's the kind of dog that doesn't bark. Ever. Lazy, floppy, good boy vibes. He was stretched out beside the fire, head on his paws, enjoying the heat. Then he stood up. Not slow, not groggy. Alert. Stiff. Ears up, staring toward the trees. We paused mid-laugh, all of us looking at Jack. Then we heard it. A scream. Far off. High-pitched. Guttural. Not a coyote. Not a fox. Not a human. It was wrong. I can't explain it perfectly, but it sounded like something was pretending to scream like a person, like a broken tape recorder trying to imitate pain. It had this wet, gurgling undercurrent to it, like something in its throat was rotting. Jack growled. We all froze. Then another scream. Closer. From the other side. Whatever it was, there were two of them. And they were closing in. Do you believe me now? Travis whispered. He'd told us stories before, weird screams in the woods, sightings he couldn't explain. I'd always thought it was bullshit. But now I didn't know what to think. We grabbed sticks from the fire. Not weapons, just something. Jack was pacing now, whining. He kept glancing at the house, like he wanted to run. We should have. But we didn't. Instead, we stood. Quiet. Listening. And that's when everything stopped. No wind. No insects. No crackling fire. Silence. Dead silence. You don't realize how loud the woods normally are until everything shuts off at once. Then we heard it. Footsteps. Behind me. Heavy. Deliberate. Bipedal. I didn't move. Neither did Zach or Travis. The steps kept going. Back and forth. Pacing. About 10 or 15 feet behind us. But when I turned to look, nothing. Just blackness and trees. I could feel it though. Something was there. Watching. We backed up, put out the fire as fast as we could, smothering it with dirt and water bottles. The moment the last ember died, we ran. Back inside. Jack barked once, just once, then ran ahead of us, tail down. We slammed the door shut and locked it. None of us said anything. Just sat in the living room, listening to the wind pick up again. The fire crackled in the fireplace, but it didn't feel warm anymore. It felt like we'd brought something back inside with us. A few weeks passed. I didn't bring it up. Neither did they. But then Travis hit me up. Dude, it happened again. He told me he'd gone outside for a smoke a few nights earlier and saw a figure at the edge of the woods, a dog. Or what looked like one. But it stood up, on two legs, looked into the dumpster, then disappeared into the trees. He said it had no tail, no ears, pale, hairless skin. Its front legs were bent the wrong way. It didn't move like a dog. It moved like a man wearing a dog suit backwards. That was his exact description. I laughed it off. I didn't want to believe it. But a week later, I saw it for myself. We were at the school's outdoor classroom. It was just a few logs in a circle, surrounded by forest and a field. Late night. Past midnight. Zach was out of town, so it was me, Travis, and this dude Chris. We were smoking, telling stories, being loud. Then Travis stopped mid-sentence. "What the hell is that?" He pointed to the tree line behind me. I turned, and there it was. A pale, twisted thing sitting on its haunches, watching us. No fur. Just skin. Sickly yellow-white. Its eyes were huge, too big for its face. Its legs were bent backward like a deer, but broken. And the face. It didn't have a snout. Not really. Just a flat, malformed face with lips pulled back into a smile. It didn't blink. Didn't move. We stood. Chris was already backing up. The thing followed. Not quickly. Just calmly. Stalking us from the edge of the woods as we cut across the field. Then Travis made a mistake. He whistled. The thing stopped. Turned its whole body toward us, stiffly like it was jerking on strings. And stared. We bolted. Didn't stop until we got back to Travis's grandparents' house. We locked the door. Pulled the curtains. Sat in silence, hearts racing. I didn't sleep that night, because the last thing I saw before running was its smile. Not angry, not animal, curious. Like it wanted to know what we'd do next. A month later, I was at Travis's again. Normal night. Video games. The usual. Around 11, we stepped out to the porch to smoke. The pool shimmered. Crickets chirped. Everything felt okay. Then we heard a voice. Far off. A girl's voice. We couldn't hear what she was saying. Just the tone, urgent. Scared. "Is that your sister?" I asked. Travis shook his head. "She's upstairs. Asleep." We tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a neighbor. Maybe someone walking a dog. But the words didn't make sense. They looped. Repeated. The same cadence, over and over. Like a recording. Then we saw a light in the sky. Not a plane. Not a star. Just a white orb hovering, then suddenly gone. Snapped out like someone flipped a switch. Travis went to grab shorts from the porch railing. I glanced toward the woods. And that's when I saw it again. The same thing. But taller now. 8 or 9 feet. Skin stretched thin like a bedsheet over bones. Its head was cocked to one side, smiling. Hands pressed against the tree like it was hiding, but watching. Its eyes. Dead. Glassy. Familiar. The same eyes as the dog thing we saw at the school. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. I turned to call Travis, and when I looked back, it was gone. Not moved. Not stepped away. Just gone. But that wasn't the end. Travis's face went pale. I just heard my mom say my name. He looked at me, shaking. "She's asleep." But I heard her. She said, "Travis, come here." I didn't argue. I told him to take me home. The next day, Zach came with us. We wanted to prove we weren't insane. Went back to the spot where I saw the thing. That's where we found it. A deep claw mark on the tree. Like something had dragged a knife or talon back and forth, digging into the bark. A few feet away, in the dirt, were indents. Not full footprints. Just pressure. Like something hit the ground hard and vanished. We followed them. They led into the woods. We didn't go in. I don't talk to Travis anymore. We had a falling out. Don't even miss him, honestly. You ever look into the eyes of something and feel your entire body reject its existence? Not in fear, not in confusion, but in absolute biological denial, like your blood knows it shouldn't be real. That's what happened the night I saw it up close. The grinning one. It had been a few months since the bonfire incident at Travis's. Since we heard those horrible screams echo through the woods and ran like hell back to the house. Since we saw it for the first time. The thing that looked like a broken dog. The thing that watched us from the woods with those 2 wide eyes. That creature that stood up on its hind legs and smiled like it knew something we didn't. It hadn't followed me home. Not exactly. But I'd wake up sometimes thinking I'd seen something in the corner of my room. Something just out of frame. Or I'd catch my reflection in the TV and swear I wasn't alone in the room. So I stopped talking about it, pushed it away like a bad dream. Until I went back to Travis's house. I was only there for a catch-up. I hadn't seen him in months, not since I'd moved back from living with my biological mom. That house was a whole other nightmare, but at least there were no woods there. No smiling things in the dark. When I came back to town, Travis hit me up. "Come crash." Like old times. So I did. We played Xbox. Got stoned. Talked about the universe and how none of it makes sense. It was like nothing had changed. Until around 11 p.m., when we stepped out onto the back porch. The air was cold. The pool sat still and black beneath the stars. We each had a smoke and sat there, just bullshitting. Then we heard it. A voice. Faint. Female. Not crying, not screaming, just talking. Travis stopped mid-sentence. I looked at him, then toward the woods. We couldn't make out what she was saying, but it sounded urgent. Like someone was just out of sight, whispering an argument with someone else. Is that your sister? I asked. He shook his head slowly. She's asleep. And even if she wasn't, why the hell would she be in the woods at midnight? The voice kept going. Soft. Luring. Wrong. Then it cut off, just stopped. And a few minutes later, Travis's eyes widened. Look, he said. I turned to my left. Floating above the tree line was a glowing white orb. Not like a plane. Not like a flashlight or a star. This was perfect. Pure light. Still. Silent. Suspended in the air like God had paused time. And then it was gone. Just blinked out. The wind stopped. The woods went quiet. A weight settled over the yard like a fog of silence. I got this feeling, the kind you get when a roller coaster pauses at the top, just before the drop. My stomach flipped. Travis got out of the pool and asked me to grab his dry shorts from the porch railing. They were hanging at the far end, near the woods. I got up, still shaken, but trying to act normal. And that's when I saw it again. It was right there, just beyond the tree-line, half hidden behind a tree. Its body was pale, not just pale, but a glowing, deathly white. Tall, 8 feet, maybe more. Gaunt, stick-thin limbs that looked stretched like taffy. Its fingers were long and wrong. The knees bent the wrong way. And it was watching me. Its face was too smooth, no nose, no ears, just a stretched mouth and 2 massive, dead eyes. Milky and yellowed like rotting eggs. And it was smiling. Smiling with its whole face. I froze. I stared at it, and it stared back. No movement. No sound. It didn't blink. Didn't sway. It was completely still, except for the smile, which slowly began to widen. I wanted to scream, but no air came out. I turned to call for Travis, my voice cracking out something that didn't sound human. When I looked back, gone. Vanished. We stood there listening, waiting. Hoping it wouldn't come back. Then Travis turned to me, pale as a corpse. I just heard my mom's voice, he said. She said, Travis, come here. He looked at me with real fear. She's been asleep for hours. Upstairs. That's when I lost it. I grabbed my stuff and told him I was done. No way in hell I was sticking around. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just watching anymore. It was mimicking, calling us, choosing us. The next morning, I hit up Zach. Told him everything. He believed me, because he'd heard the screams too, back at the bonfire. We went to Travis's place and walked back to the woods, to the spot where I saw it. We found the tree. It had claw marks running down it, not scratches. Gouges. Deep. Like something had dug into the bark with unnatural strength. And there were impressions in the dirt. Not footprints, exactly. Just flattened ovals, like something heavy had landed there without bending grass. They led deeper into the woods. We didn't follow. But that night haunted me. And it still does. Because every now and then, I dream about it. Not about it chasing me. Not about it attacking. Just standing there. Watching. Grinning. That thing was never an animal. It wasn't a person either. It was something else. And it knew I saw it. There's something about highway driving at night that's both calming and terrifying. The way the world shrinks to just your headlights and the yellow lines rushing under the tires. The way trees blur into silhouettes and shadows move even when nothing's there. Most nights it's peaceful. But some nights the road watches back. It started in 2015, cutting through Ohio. I was 24, coming off a burnout road trip, halfway between lost and finding something I wasn't even sure I needed. I didn't have much, an old SUV, a Glock in the glove box, and a radar detector that kept me from giving all my money to state troopers. I liked to drive alone. Still do. But I'll never forget the first time I saw it. The thing that runs beside the car. The thing that keeps up. It was past 2 a.m., heading into the dense rural stretch of southern Ohio. Nothing but thick woods and dips in the land so deep you'd lose signal for a solid 5 minutes. I hadn't seen another car in over an hour. I should have stopped at a motel. My eyes were heavy. I was drinking gas station coffee that tasted like cardboard. But I was wired and stubborn, and something about the fog crawling along the road made me feel like if I stopped moving, something would catch up to me. So I drove. The road narrowed. No shoulder, no guardrail. just black trees pressing in on either side like they were leaning in to listen. That's when I noticed the shape. It wasn't in front of me, not on the road. It was in the trees, to the right, keeping pace. At first, I thought it was just shadows. Your mind plays tricks when it's that late and your eyes are dry. But it was there again, and again, a figure, low to the ground, moving fast, too fast. At 60 miles per hour, it was still there. At 65, it kept pace. At 70, I started to panic, because that was when it came closer. The headlights lit it up for a second as it cleared between trees. It didn't look real. It didn't look right. Long limbs. Skin so pale it almost glowed. It didn't run like a dog. It didn't gallop. It moved with these long, loping strides, arms swinging back, knees bent backwards. It was humanoid, and it was looking at me. I could see it between the trees, just glimpses, but it was watching. Dead white eyes. No mouth. No nose. Just smooth, stretched skin over bone. And it was grinning. Not with a mouth. With its whole posture. Like its body was excited. Like it was enjoying the chase. I floored it. 75. 80. 90. It kept up. Still dodging trees, slipping through the dark like it knew the land better than the light ever had. I rolled the window down and grabbed the Glock. I didn't aim. Just fired off 4 shots into the trees. Pop, 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 pop. The recoil hit harder than the fear. I don't know if I hit it. I don't think I did. But for a second, the trees went still. Then it was gone. Vanished between one blink and the next. I kept driving. Hit 100. Didn't slow down for 30 minutes. Didn't breathe right for the rest of the night. People don't believe me when I tell them. They say it was a bear. A hallucination. A dream. But then it happened again. Maine. 2017. Late again. Different car. New job. Same road trip addiction. I was coming back from Acadia. Beautiful place. Quiet. Too quiet, maybe. There's a certain silence in the northeastern forests that feels more like absence than peace. It was raining. Lightly. Just enough to smear the windshield and make the road gleam. And there it was. Same shape. Same gait. Same unnatural speed. Running alongside me, through forests so dense I don't even know how it fit between the trees. I slowed down this time. It didn't. It kept going. This time it grinned with its face. It had one now. Something halfway between a human and a deer, stretched, sagging, and smiling with lips that were too wide and teeth that were too straight. And it was mouthing something. I swear to God, it was saying my name. No sound. Just lips moving. Perfectly. I screamed. Rolled the window up. Punched the gas again. The thing didn't follow this time. But it didn't stop watching either. I lost it behind the trees after about 20 seconds, but those 20 seconds stretched out like hours. I had dreams about it for weeks. Always on the side of the road. Always just beyond the beam of the headlights. Always running. I think I saw it a third time. New York. 2018. East of Buffalo, heading toward the Canadian border. Long highway stretch. Not a soul in sight. I don't have proof. I barely remember the details. Just a silhouette moving beside me in the trees again. Not pacing me this time, just watching. It didn't move like the others. It was standing still. And when I passed, it turned. Didn't follow. Didn't smile. Just stared. That was somehow worse. I don't drive at night anymore. Not alone. I keep to the cities. I stay near light. I haven't seen it since, but sometimes, if I leave my window open just a crack, I swear I hear footsteps outside my apartment. Rhythmic. Pacing. Like someone is jogging in place. Waiting. I keep the Glock beside my bed now, because if I ever hear it call my name again, I don't think I'll be able to outrun it this time. Let me tell you something about summer camp. When you're a kid, it's magical. Adventure. Friendship. S'mores and stargazing. When you're older, you start to notice the gaps. The weird places in the woods that counselors warn you not to go. The cabins that sit unused. The rules about never leaving the bunkhouse after dark. You start to feel like those stories the kids whisper aren't just legends. Sometimes they're warnings. This happened to me years ago at a camp up on Weberman Lake in Alberta, Canada. I'd been going there every summer since I was 9. But by the time I turned 13, I was finally old enough to stay in the ridge cabins. They were up on the hill, 127 steps to be exact. Everyone counted them. It was like a rite of passage. The ridge cabins were for the older kids. They were more isolated, tucked into the treeline. 3 bunkhouses for campers, and 1 staff cabin facing them like a guard tower. And they were tall, up on wooden stilts to keep away moisture and animals. And maybe other things. I got assigned to the cabin on the far left. Small group. 6 of us. The inside was what you'd expect. Wood planks, rusted bunks, mattresses thin as cardboard. 3 beds on the left wall, 2 on the right. Just enough room to trip over someone's shoes and bust your head open if the lights went out. The windows were high, way higher than they needed to be. Placed between the top and bottom bunks, but closer to the ceiling than eye level. And since the cabin was raised, the bottom of those windows had to be about 9 or 10 feet off the ground. You'd have to be standing on a ladder just to peek inside. Or at least, you should have had to. The first day was normal. Swim tests. Campfire intro. Everyone trying to act like they weren't scared to be away from home. We unpacked, joked around, and went to sleep. It was that first night I saw it. I was on the lower bunk by the left wall. Across from me was Devin, a loudmouth who kept pretending to snore like a chainsaw. Beside me on the opposite wall was Liam, quiet kid, but not scared. We were talking, whispering about some counselor we thought was cute, laughing under our breath. I had my flashlight on, pointed toward the wall above Liam's head, which just happened to shine straight across to the right side window. And that's when I saw it. A white shape, just barely visible through the gap in the crappy curtain. I paused mid-sentence. My light was reflecting off something outside the window, something smooth. It didn't look like an animal, or a branch. It looked like skin, just pale, dead white, unmoving, watching. I didn't even understand what I was looking at until my brain clicked. That window is 10 feet off the ground. It was eye level. Something was staring in from 10 feet up. I froze. Didn't scream. Didn't move. Just whispered, "Liam, don't look. Don't move." Of course, he looked immediately. And the second he turned his head, the shape darted away. Not stepped. Darted. Fast. Silent. Too fast. The movement made my stomach drop. Not just fear, something deeper. That primal dread animals feel right before the kill. We didn't sleep that night. We huddled under our blankets, too scared to say anything. The air felt thick, like we weren't supposed to be there. The next morning, we told the other boys. They laughed, called us chicken. Until the next night. 3 of them decided they wanted to go see the monster for themselves. I didn't want to. Liam didn't either. But peer pressure is a hell of a thing when you're 13. We grabbed flashlights and snuck out after lights out. It was maybe 2 a.m. Cold. Windless. Too quiet. We walked about 60 feet down one of the trails near our cabin. The trees pressed in on both sides, the path narrowing, roots and branches making it easy to trip if you weren't paying attention. Then one of the boys gasped. "Do you see that?" We turned our lights to where he was pointing. And there it was, standing maybe 150 feet away, behind a tree. It had antlers. Massive ones. Like an elk. But its body wasn't right. It was human-shaped, long, thin limbs, too many joints. Hairless. Sickly pale. Its arms hung low, almost dragging. Its chest rose and fell, slow and deep, like it was trying to remember how to breathe. It took one. There are some moments that don't fade with time. Not because of trauma. Not because of memory. But because, somewhere deep in your gut, you know what you saw wasn't supposed to exist. And worse, it noticed you seeing it. I was 10. Maybe 11. Small town. Suburbs. Boring school. The kind of neighborhood where every house looks the same, and no one locks their doors, unless there's a break-in a few blocks over. It was summer, the kind where the heat never fully fades, even at night, and everything smells like cut grass and pavement. We were outside late, playing night tag with flashlights, yelling over each other, not caring if we woke the neighbors. I remember I was looking for my friend Jay. She was always the best at hiding, small and quick, always barefoot for better grip on the grass. I thought I saw her duck behind the swings, so I jogged toward the old jungle gym near the edge of the park. And that's where everything went wrong. Jay was there. Kind of. At first, I didn't register it. I just saw a shape. Like she was caught mid-cartwheel. One leg in the air, one arm twisted under her. Frozen. Not moving. But it wasn't playful. It wasn't like she'd fallen and was laughing about it. It looked like something had paused her in motion. Her head was at a terrible angle, neck stretched too far, eyes open too wide. I stopped walking. Stared. It was too dark to see clearly, but my eyes adjusted enough to know this wasn't right. That wasn't Jay. Or if it was, something was wrong with her. Then I watched it move. But not like a person. The arms bent backwards, unfolding from the position like a spider rearranging its legs. The torso arched with a sickening crack, bones popping into place where they didn't belong. And the head, it didn't just turn. It morphed. Like clay melting under heat. The eyes shrank, and the shape of the skull shifted. Elongated. The jaw jutted out. Hair fell away like ash. It was becoming a deer. But it wasn't a deer. Because the eyes stayed human for just a second too long. And in that second, they locked on me. I screamed. Ran. Didn't stop until I was back on the porch, panting and crying. 5 minutes later, Jay showed up with my brother and another friend. She was fine. Smiling. Same clothes. Same everything. You okay? She asked, laughing at the look on my face. I couldn't answer. Because I had no idea if I was talking to her. Or the thing I'd seen wearing her shape. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of the dark. I was used to that. But because I was afraid I'd see it again. Afraid I'd look out my window and see something halfway between girl and deer, frozen, waiting just like before. And maybe this time it wouldn't run. I don't know what it was. Maybe my brain messed up. Maybe my eyes played a trick. But I know how it made me feel. That sick, sinking dread in your chest when you realize the world isn't as solid as you thought it was. That something slipped through. Something that could look like us, but doesn't understand what it means to be us. Years later, I told someone about it. They said it sounded like a skinwalker. Maybe it was. All I know is, to this day, I won't walk alone in the dark. Because if I ever see that half-turned head again, mid-morph, mid-wrong, mid-everything, I don't think I'd scream. I think I'd freeze. Just like it did. We had 2 dogs, Fancy and Jasper. Fancy was a mini Aussie, smart, twitchy, always watching. Jasper was her shadow, an Aussie blue heeler, protective to the bone. They were family, and they were everything you wanted in dogs. Loyal, loud when they needed to be, and absolute clowns the rest of the time. We lived a little outside town. Just far enough that the sky stayed black at night. Neighbors were scattered, each house separated by an acre or more of land. That's how my dad liked it. Room to breathe, he said. But there are things that breathe in the dark, too. It was early fall. That strange season where the air is crisp, but the earth still sweats. Where the moon seems too close and too full too often. My parents were out that night, maybe at a neighbor's for dinner or helping my aunt fix a generator. Just me and my older sister home. That wasn't uncommon. We were used to being alone. Around 9 p.m., my sister let the dogs out into the fenced area my dad had built. The fence wasn't massive, about 6 feet high, some makeshift parts with wood and metal, but it kept raccoons out and the dogs in. It also had a latch system only Jasper seemed to know how to defeat, which he did often when he wanted to be clever. I stayed inside, lounging on the floor, watching some late-night cartoon reruns and sipping flat soda. Maybe 10 minutes later, we heard Jasper barking. That wasn't unusual. But he wasn't barking at anything. He was barking like he was warning us. My sister opened the back door and called them. Jasper came in first, all puffed up, on edge, tail high, hackles stiff. Then Fancy came in right behind him, head low, tail tucked. She was shaking. Not her usual anxious wiggle, but shaking, like a motor going bad. Her breathing was shallow. She let out this strange hacking sound, like her throat was full of smoke. We both paused. Is she choking? I asked. No, my sister whispered. Look at her eyes. Fancy's eyes were wide. Not scared. Not tired. Empty. She didn't go to her food bowl. Didn't run to her blanket like usual. She just stood in the middle of the room, legs locked, body twitching in short, sharp jerks. She's scared, I said. But I was wrong. She wasn't scared. She was wrong. We didn't understand what we were seeing. I called her name. Snapped my fingers. She didn't react. Then she blinked. And turned toward the door. Just walked back to it. Stared at it. Didn't bark. Didn't whine. Just stared. Then came the scratching. We froze. From the other side of the door, the same door she'd just walked through, came the exact scratching pattern Fancy always made when she wanted in. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. Short scrape. It was her scratch. Jasper growled. Low. Deep. The kind of growl that makes your stomach turn cold. His ears flattened. He walked between us and the Fancy inside. Then the one by the door looked at him. And disappeared. Not like she ran. She vanished. My sister screamed and threw the lock. What the hell was that? Jasper was barking now, circling the room, agitated. And then, 2 minutes later, Fancy walked in again. Same entry. Same path. Only this time she was normal. Head tilted. Tongue out. Tail wagging. She ran to the bowl. Sniffed her blanket. Licked Jasper's face. My sister and I looked at each other. What was that? She asked. I didn't have an answer. But I knew this. Whatever we let in first wasn't her. We never told our parents. What were we going to say? Hey, Mom, a fake version of our dog came into the house and then vanished into thin air. Want to call a priest or something? So we let it go. At least we tried to. But that night, as I got ready for bed, I noticed something on my back. A scratch. Long, thin. 3 lines running from my right shoulder blade down to my waist. Not a surface scratch. A burning one. I hadn't scratched myself. I'd been inside all night. Jasper didn't do it. He doesn't jump, doesn't swipe. And Fancy? Fancy had been acting strange again. Watching me. Only me. That was just the beginning. A couple months earlier, before the Fancy incident, I'd seen something weird near the woods by our bus stop. We lived in a small neighborhood, no sidewalks, just gravel shoulders and a lot of quiet mornings. It was 6:30 a.m. Still dark. No one else outside. I was waiting for the bus when I saw it. A shape. Big. Crouched. Just across the road. It looked like a dog. But not quite. It was hunched low, its limbs too long and its back too arched, like something trying to fit into a shape it didn't understand. Its face was wrong. Even from across the street, I could tell. It wasn't canine. It had a snout but too short, and the eyes. They glowed. Not reflected. Glowed. And when a car passed, its lights caught the thing fully, and it stood. Not like a dog rearing. Not like a bear. It stood upright. Arms limp at its sides. Head cocked. Watching me. I didn't wait for the bus. I ran back inside and didn't go to school that day. No one believed me. But after what happened with Fancy, my sister started to. A week after Fancy's double appearance, Jasper stopped sleeping near the windows. He took to sleeping in the hallway instead, between all the bedrooms, like a guard. Sometimes I'd wake up to him growling, staring at the door. Always at midnight. I started keeping my light on. Didn't help. One night, I was reading, too scared to sleep, when the hallway light clicked on. I froze. I hadn't heard anyone get up. Then I saw a shadow under the door. Not pacing. Not walking. Just waiting. Then came the scratching. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. Scrape. The exact pattern. The one Fancy always made. I didn't move. Didn't open the door. And eventually, the light clicked off. In the morning, Fancy was curled up on the couch, same as always. Only this time, when she looked at me, she didn't blink. Just held eye contact. Like she was waiting to see if I remembered. Jasper died 2 months later. Hit by a car in the early morning. Dad found him on the side of the road, stiff and stretched, like he'd been chasing something, or running from something faster than him. I didn't cry until later that night. Because when I came home, Fancy was at the door. She barked. Once. Then did her scratch. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. Scrape. And I realized something. She hadn't done that since the night she vanished. I don't live there anymore. Fancy passed away a year after Jasper. Old age, they said. Peaceful. But I'll never forget that look in her eyes that night. The one that wasn't hers. Like something had stepped into her skin for just a moment. Like something had gotten inside. And even now, years later, if I hear a scratching at my door at night, I don't answer. Because sometimes once is all it takes. We were just going for a hike. That's how all these stories start, right? A simple, harmless plan. Boys in the woods. Backpacks. Snacks. Maybe a snake or 2. But the thing about the woods is they remember. They remember you. They don't always let you leave the same. I was 13. My older brother Ryan was 15, cocky, the athletic one, always leading the way. Then there was Jamie, my younger brother, 11 and still carrying that kid wonder in his eyes. Always barefoot when he could be. Always chasing lizards and beetles with reckless joy. We were camping on my family's land near Walker Ranch. Middle of nowhere. The kind of property you brag about having until you realize just how alone you are when you're out there. The land butted up against a range of rocky hills. Nothing massive, just tall enough to give you a view of the valley on a clear day. Our dad warned us not to wander too far after sunset. Predators come out, and the land changes, he'd say. We laughed. Okay, Dad. Because we were kids. And kids don't listen to warnings they don't understand. That day we packed some jerky Gatorades, a flashlight just in case, and took off hiking. We followed the trail up one of the hills behind the property, past the dry creek bed, through the thorns and red dust. The sun was starting to dip by the time we reached the top, painting the world in that golden light that makes everything feel like a memory before it even happens. Jamie found a horned lizard. Ryan spotted an owl gliding between branches. I just stared out at the horizon, where the sky bled orange and the trees turned to silhouettes. We stayed too long. Way too long. And by the time we started back down, the light was gone. At first, we didn't think much of it. The trail looked the same. Our feet knew the way. But the trees looked closer. The silence was heavier. No birds. No wind. Not even bugs. Just the crunch of our sneakers on dry dirt and the occasional scrape of Jamie tripping over roots. I was at the back. Ryan up front. Jamie in the middle. And that's when I felt it. A shift. That sixth sense itch at the back of your neck. Like someone just leaned in too close behind you. I stopped walking. Looked behind me. Nothing. Just trees and brush and shadows. Hey, I called. Hold up a second. Ryan paused, annoyed. What now? Did you hear that? Hear what? But Jamie heard it too. A low, gurgling growl. Not close. But not far enough either. It didn't sound like a coyote. Didn't sound like any animal I'd ever heard. It sounded wet, like lungs full of blood. I whispered, we should go faster. We started speed walking, trying to keep calm. But every few seconds, I'd hear it again. Branches snapping behind us. Footsteps. Heavy ones. And that growl, soft at first, then louder, closer. Ryan heard it now too. He stopped. Looked behind us. Clicked on the flashlight. It barely pierced the dark. Just an animal, he said. But his voice had cracked. Then why is it following us? Jamie asked, his voice shaking. None of us answered. We started running. Not full sprint, not yet. But fast enough that my lungs burned and Jamie's breathing turned ragged. I glanced over my shoulder. And that's when I saw it. A shape. Moving between the trees. Low to the ground. But tall. Too tall. Like a person crawling, but their limbs were too long, elbows bent backward like a spider. I only saw it for a second. But that was enough. My brain said man. But my gut screamed run. We hit the lower part of the trail. It was flatter there, and we could almost see the clearing that led back to our tent. Almost. But the trees weren't right. They seemed to be shifting. Like the trail was longer than before. Jamie tripped. Went down hard. Ryan stopped to pull him up. Get up, get up, get up. And then the growl came again. Right behind me. Right behind me. I spun around with the flashlight. Caught movement. A leg. Bare. Pale. Long enough that it didn't look real. It pulled back into the brush like it didn't want the light. We didn't speak. We ran. Full sprint. Downhill. Barely staying upright. I heard it behind us, matching our speed. But never too close. Like it was hurting us. Like it wanted us to know we were prey, but not to kill us yet. We broke through the tree-line and into the clearing. Our campsite was there, tents. Fire pit. The metal folding chairs we left out. Everything untouched. But none of us stopped running until we were inside the main tent with the flap zipped and the lantern lit. Even then we were quiet. We sat there, three brothers, huddled in silence, listening. We heard nothing. No footsteps. No growls. Just silence. Until we heard breathing. Outside. Just one long, slow inhale. And then scraping. Something dragging across the outside of the tent. Not claws. Not sticks. Fingers. Long ones. I saw the silhouette pass behind Ryan. Not upright, but low. Crawling. And smiling. I didn't see its mouth. But I felt it. That same smile you feel when someone knows your fear and enjoys it. Ryan grabbed the hatchet. We didn't have a gun. Just a knife and a tool. But whatever was out there didn't test the tent. Didn't speak. Just breathed. Listened. And left. We stayed up all night. Slept in shifts the next 2 nights. We never saw it again. Not with our eyes. But sometimes, when I'm near that part of the property, I feel it. Like something still watches from the tree line. Not angry. Just waiting. I asked our dad once if he'd ever seen anything strange up there. He didn't look at me. Just said, the land's older than we are. Some things don't need names. And he left it at that. I'll never forget the sound of that breathing. The way it moved. Fast but playful. The smile that wasn't a smile. And the way the sun dipped below the trees, and took the rules with it. Because in that place, once the light goes down, you're not the top of the food chain anymore. I've been camping my whole life. Not glamping. Not campgrounds with Wi-Fi or yurt signs and picnic tables. I'm talking about the real kind. Hike for 2 hours, build your fire with what you find, sleep in a bag that smells like mildew and sweat, and pray it doesn't rain. It was a tradition for us, me and 2 close friends, Chris and Jason. We'd been doing it since high school, and by our early 20s, we considered ourselves experts. We'd camped on cliff sides, through thunderstorms, in the middle of winter with nothing but tarps and whiskey to keep us warm. But there's one night that still lives in my bones. The night I heard it growl. And it didn't stop following. We decided to check out a new area, a small state forest that wasn't heavily trafficked. Jason had a contact who gave us the name of a trail that wasn't even listed on the official maps. Apparently, it led to a secluded glade surrounded by thick forest, with a nearby creek and a small waterfall. Picturesque. Remote. Perfect. We drove out on a Friday afternoon, backpacks full, boots laced, full of cocky energy and campfire jokes. Parked at a dusty pull-off, threw our gear on, and started the hike. The trail was steep in parts, twisting under low-hanging branches, and through tunnels of brush. No cell service. No sounds except for birds, and the occasional squirrel launch from tree to tree. After an hour or so we reached it, the glade. Wide clearing, soft moss underfoot, the smell of water just a short walk away. It was perfect. We set up our tents, built a pit, and gathered wood. By nightfall, the fire was crackling, the drinks were open, and the stories started. As always, someone brought up cryptids. Chris, the non-believer, was mocking every Skinwalker video and Bigfoot tale he'd ever heard. Jason, more cautious, just shrugged and said, "Don't tempt stuff. Especially out here." And me? I listened. I'd heard enough weird stories growing up to respect the idea that not everything in the woods has a name. It was probably around midnight when we decided to turn in. Fire doused, gear packed away. I crawled into my tent, zipped up, slid into the bag. I remember thinking how quiet it was. No wind. No bugs. Not even the creek was audible from here. Just silence. And then, I heard it. A growl. Low. Deep. Rumbling like something breathing through gravel. At first, I thought it was Chris, snoring through his beard again. But then it happened again. Closer. A wet sound. Not like any coyote or bear I'd heard. Not even a dog. It was wrong. Like an animal trying to growl like a human. Or maybe the other way around. I held my breath. The sound circled. Soft footsteps in the leaves. Just one set. Slow. And that growl, low and constant, followed every step. I stayed frozen for what felt like hours. I didn't sleep. In the morning, I asked the others if they'd heard anything. Chris said no. Jason just stared at me. "You heard it too?" I asked. He nodded. I thought it was my imagination. "Nope," I said. We looked at each other. Didn't say anything else. But we both started packing up camp. Chris laughed. "What already? You guys scared of raccoons now?" We didn't answer. But we stayed. We didn't want to be the ones who bailed on a weekend because of weird noises. We told ourselves it was nothing. Maybe a feral dog. Maybe the wind. Maybe our nerves playing tricks. That night, the growl came back. Later this time. Almost 3 a.m. Jason heard it first. I knew because I heard his tent unzip slightly. Then mine did too. We peeked out. The fire was out. The moon was gone, hidden behind thick clouds. But something moved between the trees. A shape. Too tall. Too slow. Not walking. Pacing. The growl came again. Loud enough now that Chris sat bolt upright. "What the hell is that?" No one answered. Because now we could all hear it. The pacing stopped. The growl deepened. And then we heard it breathe. It exhaled, loud and deliberate, like it was announcing itself. Jason reached for his flashlight and clicked it on. The beam hit the edge of the trees, and we saw it. Eyes. Just eyes. Not glowing. Not red. Just reflecting. But the angle was too low for a person and too high for any animal we knew. They blinked once. Then disappeared. Chris swore. Started to unzip his tent fully. But Jason shouted, "Don't." Too late. The second the flap opened, the growl turned into a screech. Something charged the tents. I heard Chris shout, saw his flashlight fall. Then silence. No steps. No retreat. Just the echo of that scream lingering between the trees. When we all got out, Chris was shaking. I didn't see it, he said over and over. I didn't see it. But it was close. It was right there. There were no prints. No torrentins. But something had left a smell. Rot. Blood. Wet fur and copper. We didn't sleep again. Packed up at dawn. Fast. Left gear behind. Hiked out in silence. No jokes. No talking. No looking back. A week later, Chris stopped replying to texts. When I finally called, he answered. Whispered. I think it followed me home. I didn't laugh. Because I'd been hearing scratching on my windows at night. And a low, gravel growl outside my bedroom door. It's been years. I've moved twice. Different state. I keep the lights on every night.